Oké, ja, dan ben ik klaar. Welkom, my name is Job. I'm an artist, art director, filmmaker. And I graduated 2 years ago from the Design Academy in Eindhoven, from the department Man and Communication. And the first project I will show was one of my graduation projects. This project is called Astrologic, and Astrologic is a fictional startup that looks into like how you can artificially realign the stars to recreate your future. Because I got super interested in two trends they were coming up in 2020. It was like more like astrology in pop culture and commercial satellites in the field of technique. It was in the time that SpaceX was launching their extremely big fleet with satellites for a big internet fleet. So I thought, okay, there's two things happening in the big black sky, and we're kind of losing our relationship with nature. Because humans always have been like quite attached to the sky. We use it for like agriculture, astrology, and our relationship with the last piece of nature is kind of changing because technology was again jumping in. So I thought, okay, if there's going to be a lot of new man-made stars up in there, maybe we can use them and set them to our side. So what actually my idea was with this startup is to create like artificial constellations, which can be controlled by the startup. So you could kind of like ask the startup like, shit, tomorrow I have like a very, very big basketball game and I need to make sure we're gonna score. Well, then the startup can realign the stars for you. So I created three short films, 3 scenarios in which the startup could help fix that scenario. So one of them is like self-belief prosperity with the basketball player. The second one is career and expertise. You have a job interview, you have to make sure everything's going to be right, you're going to ask the right questions. And the last one is, of course, romance and desire, because how nice is it that you can ask astrology if he's going to be the right partner for you. And as you can see, I played with different perspectives, up and down, people looking up, people looking down, and the round circle. And this came back in the installation because you view the project laying on the floor, watching at the big screen. And actually it needs to give you the feeling of gazing up, gazing to the stars and wondering what's written in there for you. That's actually my first project. And my second project is called All Flights Are Fueled with Leprechaun Pee and My Bullshit. And this project is made for the Geodesign exhibition, which was presented last year on Dutch Design Week. And in this exhibition, we looked with several other designers into budget airlines. What we did, we looked into Ryanair as a big company, and how Ryanair is using clickability instead of likability, because they kind of created like they kind of create like a horrible image of themselves, but we keep on sticking to them. We keep on flying Ryanair. And why do we keep on sticking with them? Why do we keep on having this relation with them? So what we tried in this project is we looked at Ryanair, did analytical research, and kind of translated their anti-design techniques into character building. So we borrowed these techniques from film to build these characters, and we scaled this big multinational down to a few little entities. So you have the 3 sculptures. The first sculpture is the bag that's oversized, do not feed. And that's actually, this sculpture stands for how every time they make it that the customer more difficult and more expensive to fly with them, and we keep on sticking with them. The second one is how Ryanair has kind of a history in using using a lot of naked females in an advertisement to actually to use a lot of naked women in advertisements to kind of sell their flights again. But it's actually these images are really weird to us. And the last one is based on the saying, all flights are fueled by Lebko Weema bullshit. And this comes from several advertising techniques that we combine together in the sculpture. I can go more further into detail, but I'm not sure if that's needed. So these are the two projects I wanted to show to you.
Is ignorance bliss was a question I continuously asked myself during this graduation project I made. Because is it actually good to not engage and think about your own life, like, oh, I'm in the Netherlands, everything's going well for me, or should I go into all the disaster happening around me, as in Ukraine, America, this is Syria, I think, sandstorms, Africa, the disaster happening around with all the animals. And then I saw this, is it a meme? I don't know. Sentence, the less I care, the happier I am. So if I don't engage, do I feel actually happier? I researched this and I made an elevator. This elevator stands for this in-between spot where I don't know if I should engage or not. It's like I'm sticking my head in the sand and kind of stand still in this struggle I am experiencing. I made a work and I called it Let's Keep It Gezellig. This is based on conversations I had with friends that are from completely different cultures like Brazil and Russia. And my Russian friend always says, you say too easily, let's keep it gezellig, as if I cannot engage. And she also said, it's a typical Dutch thing you always do. You say, let's keep it gezellig. So kind of thought about that and came up with around 42 videos I made in this elevator. These are all short loops about my own life and how I am in this kind of elevator place where I feel myself stuck in a lot of times. So this video, for example, where I am kind of like drowning or hanging just still, or the last one where I am with the ducks. I saw these ducks outside looking for food, and then I thought, imagine I would also be looking for food upside down. Then I made this little loop, and then I realized the longer I loop this video, the more I feel like at some point I died, because if you loop this forever, I died, because I'm upside down in the water. And this also relates again, of course, to other problems in the world as water rising. This elevator also has hierarchies. So how do I go back here? Lowest videos in the elevator are all about humanity, which I represent as myself, because I couldn't really pick any other human to portray, because of if I would choose a man or a woman, that would say something. If I would choose a certain skin color, that would say something. So I chose to keep it very personal. Second layer is stuff, objects around us. And I wanted to change this hierarchy. So usually, or normally in life, humanity is on top, I feel. Then comes maybe our stuff, then comes maybe our animals and stuff are maybe on the same kind of line, and then comes nature. For me, it feels like that, as if we decide how nature and animals should behave. And I wanted to flip this hierarchy around, where I put humanity lowest, and I feel like nature is most important. So the second layer from the bottom is stuff, and here I go into subjects such as our overconsumption. This first video is based on a news I read last week about how Pakistan should drink less tea to save their economy, which I thought was really crazy. Then all the animals. So the cows, for example, are, I found, you probably also saw the images of the drought in Africa. So how animals there die because there's no more water to give to them. And then I contrast that with fat Dutch cows that are just here chill in the Greenland. And the top layer is a nature. So in my elevator there are also 7 trees, for example, because every human needs 7 trees to have enough oxygen to survive. But then I thought, what kind of trees would that be? Would that also be a bonsai tree? Small tree we cultivated. And also in all of these trees I also go again into things that affect actually the trees, such as sandstorms or tornadoes or water rising, wood fires. Yeah. And I found this morning this little poem because I was looking into is ignorance bliss, the sentence. And then I read that in 1742 there was a first time someone used this sentence, and it's in this poem. To each his sufferings all are men, condemned alike to roam, the tender for another's pain, the unfeeling for his own. Yet why should they know their fate, since sorrow never comes too late, and happiness too swiftly flies? Thought would destroy their paradise, no more where ignorance is bliss, this folly to be wise. And I thought this sentence, thought would destroy the paradise, fits humanity quite well. And also our exhibition show, which is made by the Dot Paradise Collective, which is our year. So yeah, that's it.
Ready?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Job.
Yeah.
Do you think ignorance is bliss?
It is kind of a coping mechanism as well. And I mean, there's also only so much you can do in certain situations, certain crises that happen. Those are happening everywhere. I think you more have to see, like, in which crisis can I actively help to make a change, and which ones are farther away of the things I can do. Maybe not everything has to be put into the hands of the individual. I think a lot of things all should be put in the hands of, like, bigger multinationals, countries. I mean, I think that's an important thing to do. Like, is it me as an individual who can make a change, or should, like, people with more power make a change?
And your work about the flying company, is that then something to create awareness about being ignorant about flying companies, for example, or not?
It is in a way, it is about being ignorant, because we try to research, like, why everyone is keep on taking flights with Ryanair, but we know it's a horrible company. Of course, money, in the end, money makes a big change, the cheap tickets. But everyone comes back from a flight with Ryanair, and it's complaining a lot. So I think there's also certain ignorance in that. But actually we want to like show in a different way how Ryanair uses clickability instead of likability. A question for you, if you think. In my first project I speculated a lot, in which I used a narrative, but how much in your projects do you like to use narrative and storytelling to keep your message across?
Yeah, in this project, I don't know, but I also did other projects that are much more only conceptual. So for example, I made one about fighter jets. The fighter jet also comes back into the elevator, which is about the idea that the fighter jet flies with, I think 1400 kilometers per hour it was, 1400 kilometers per hour. And then if it would continuously fly, it would fly the speed that the Earth turns. So it would stand still kind of above the Earth. And with that, you would be able to see the eternal sunset or the eternal sunrise. I thought this was a very interesting idea because fighter jets are now made to kill, but they could also be used to enjoy an eternal sunrise for 24 hours, before, for example. So that is very conceptual because it is not really possible to be in a fighter jet for 24 hours because of the amount of fuel you need. But these kind of ideas I really like to think about or dream about, kind of.
Yeah, it's a certain absurdism.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think it's also quite fun to see that you use yourself as a character in this project.
Yeah.
And it is still Marieke, but it's very much a character. It's being put in several situations. So I do feel like there is a lot of storytelling in here, because in the end it's like maybe 30, 40 loose videos on loop.
With that, yeah, of course I tell a lot of stories. Yeah, this one I just wanted to put in, I put it above the door when you go out. I kind of look down on you, where I want to kind of make you feel like I'm looking at you and you should question yourself, maybe. And the other one, yeah, this is all very, I mean, I can tell the story, but you would never be able to know it just by looking at the video. But I made this based on a poem I read, which was in Dutch. It was something like dood, dood, dood en even leven. This was a sentence, that, and being alive for a little bit. And it's also another video in the elevator where I walk around, and I pass myself, and then, so it's 2 times me. I pass myself and then I come alive for a little bit and then I die again. Yeah, this is about the story, how life just is in a cycle for forever, and I am here for a little bit, and 500 years ago there was someone else for a little bit. We all live for a little bit, and then we'll die again. I don't know, but together we have this huge story that continuously goes, or something like we build. And this one is just kind of giving up on life. And the last one, yeah, is a story about just your everyday pond with ducks. But then, if you look long enough, it starts to be about the water rising and dying of humans because of water rising. Yeah, so these kind of stories.
And do you feel like you want to continue in the future with this topic, with this project, or do you feel like there's more to explore now you graduated with it?
I do like how kind of easy it was for me to come up with these videos. So it's very, life is very inspiring. If you just read a news article, I can make a video with it. So that I really liked, and I might continue doing, also because I got more skills for this software I used, Blender, which was also fun. But I think I will continue making projects like this, where I kind of want to create awareness with colorful, happy things that also go in depth. But it doesn't have to be the subject, ignorance is bliss or world's problems.
It felt more like you found a technique.
Yeah.
In a way of storytelling.
Yeah, storytelling. But I always go into these kind of, because I thought it was interesting, you did a project about astrology.
Yeah.
Well, about the Helal, I don't know how to say it. I also did a project, but it was about space waste. So it was about the enormous amount of satellites and other kind of debris that is orbiting around the planet. If I would combine it with your project, would be kind of interesting to, for example, light this debris on fire. Then you can create these stars. And I thought it was interesting.
It's cool because we really then touching upon the same subject.
Yeah.
Because I was really looking to like this commercializing of the night sky.
Yeah.
That's exactly what also you also been doing. Like it's this, it's of nobody. And there's no rules over there, and like so many like commercial companies are shooting their satellite fleets up in there. It's actually, I think it's a really weird idea. I think it's also really weird. There's like space debris over. I find it. It's really weird. It's like a last piece of nature untouched, and now our whole connection with it is changing. I find that really interesting. So I think it's also like. Then I use again the same approach as you do, kind of then create something more absurdic, simple, a bit light, and if you then look further more into it, you kind of feel what I'm trying to touch upon to. And I think what I kind of also see and understand that you also like to work a bit with like pop culture, what's happening now, or like it's also what comes back in my work as well. Something like what happens now, like if I would present this project in like 5 years, it's not relevant anymore, because like this like astrology thing is like, it has been a really big trend and it still is like somewhere, but like a few years ago it was way bigger. But I think it's quite fun, like in a few years it feels like a bit of old fashioned. I think it's gonna be quite fun, like how it's gonna.
But then that's also interesting, because then in 20 years you realize, that was very interesting at that time.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
I have a question.
Yeah. Cool.
Marieke, do you see your work as illustrations also? Because I can imagine that you can offer this to journalistic outlets, however you say that, media outlets, as a way to promote a certain story or to convey a story as if it's illustration. Do you also consider that in sort of how you see yourself in a few years, or have you thought about that already?
No.
Do you even agree?
I can imagine. I mean, it's kind of a simple, in the sense that illustrating is literally illustrating something, right? So making it easily understandable, whatever is going on around you, that is interesting. But kind of making it into a commercialized thing is not interesting to me, in that sense.
Marieke, you mentioned in your presentation that you work with yourself as the character in all your illustrations. And Job, I was wondering, like, where do you start when you create a character? Because your characters aren't, I guess, necessarily yourself.
No. I really start right now I really start to analyze the company. So we were looking into our anti-design technique. So we try to collect all the advertisements they sent out to the world the last 20 years. We analyze them, and out of these advertisements, then we start to extract these character traits. And by this translating this and making this character, and have these character traits. Then it was easy for us to build up the story. And the story was more for ourselves, as a backstory. But it was really like this, translating it, and then build up this whole character. And also writing a script for herself, writing scenarios for herself. And out of these scenarios, we could then build these 3 sculptures. We're like three loose entities, which also can like stand on their own, stand on themselves. But then we found also interesting again to then not use film, but then to use sculptures, to make like, for people to interact with, to have these personas standing in this space, they're actually looking you directly in the eye. It's actually being standing in front of Ryanair and kind of see like, and that's actually how they have presented themselves in the last 20 years to us in media.
I also have a question then for Marieke, from what you were saying. You were saying we went from, instead of making video, we went to sculpture. Would you see yourself making sculptures out? Because I can see these as still sculptures myself.
That would be fun. Yeah, I like making sculptures. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it would be super cool if you
Yeah.
have like these like cutouts.
Yeah.
Like it's like prints on cardboard or whatever. You slot them in together to be like the airplane I showed. I think it could be really cool.
Yeah.
Actually.
Well, I could do that as a next step.
That's cool. So there's a next step. That's really
But
cool.
actually, I also started with that because I am not a video maker at all. This is the first time I make videos. It was kind of, it just happened like that. But I started with the idea of making an installation with sculptures or small objects, usable objects. Like, for example, I wanted to make a baby bite ring, you know, it's very nice actually also for adults to bite on things. Of these melting glaciers in Italy, because I thought it would be kind of a funny idea that they would be biting this glacier that is actually melting right now.
Mm-hmm.
By the time they are an adult, it will not be there anymore. I don't know, I like to make these kind of things. But I never did that. I went into the videos.
Maybe following up on the cardboards, you were saying maybe you can, this is actually a way also for you to sketch, right?
Yeah.
So it can turn out as a video installation, but it can also be translated, because I see that that's what you both are constantly doing, are sort of narrowing down to a very specific character or situation and then showing that with the backstory behind it, but not necessarily present in the work itself. So that was maybe a closing remark, unless you have anything else you want to say or respond.
I'm very curious how the sculptures are going to turn out.
Yeah.
I'm getting really excited if you say you're going to make sculptures. After seeing this, I think it's a really nice point to then go to the thing we actually used to do, making sculptures. I think it's really cool that you then went experimenting.
Okay, cool.
So,
then I have something to do after, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
to get out the black hole.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you too.
Yeah.